who also went by the name of Ophelia, both members of the Zizians.
Simon! Stop detonating! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the trial of Simon Whistler, where I, of course, will be serving as judge, jury, and executioner on behalf of the transgender elite.
The government!
In the case of this video, which, by its very existence, drawing attention to the idea of a vegan transgender cult of murderers, may by its very existence be doing harm to the cause of equal rights for transgender people, and a right to exist, and a right to not be persecuted and genocided by world governments. Let's find out if this video is doing harm and furthering that cause of the world government's genocide stuff. Let's get into it. Now, if you didn't get from context, I am not, in fact, a remarkably feminine man, but I am myself a member of the transgender community as a transgender woman. So I have some level of authority speaking on the matter.
Radicalized by their isolation from mainstream society, who grew increasingly extreme in their views about veganism, transgender identity.
We're not starting off well. We're already doing the little fear-mongering thing about how the left is radicalizing the children into terrorists, which is nonsense. But they may save this. If not, that would be unfortunate. Please, Simon, please.
This episode features a large number of transgender individuals, many of whom are in the process of transitioning or questioning their transition. We've made every effort to respect the facts and use preferred names where possible. However, do remember that we are all human and may have made a few mistakes along the way.
Okay, they're trying. Okay, but if they don't save this, if they don't, like, at some point in the video, make clear to everyone that these people are not murderers because they're transgender, and not because they're not that way because they were radicalized by the left, by the progressives, then despite that little disclaimer there, it is still doing a little bit of harm to the public image of the transgender community. Because as far as I'm aware, there are no other videos focusing on on any transgender topics on any of Mr. Whistler's channels. And it's kind of that the first video where transgender topic is covered is one about a fucking cult, which is a massive right-wing talking point. Simon, please!
As with so many cults, to understand their origin, let's first examine their founder and her backstory. Jack Lasota, who would later transition and identify as a woman, was born in 1988 in Fairbanks, Alaska. Rationalism refers to a philosophy and community rooted largely in the tech-centric Bay Area, dedicated to using reason, logic, and evidence-based thinking to make better decisions aimed at improving the world. Members of this community focus primarily on thinking clearly about...
Sounds pretty cool. Pretty chill. Evidence-based. Rational, bettering the world. I like it. How does this go bad?
Lasota, who at this time began using she/her pronouns and adopting the name Ziz, was immediately captivated.
Simon. Even when speaking about a transgender person in their past, prior to changing their name, we use their chosen name, Simon. That's called dead naming. It's not criminal, but I mean, it happens. I won't nail you to a cross over it, but it's a dick move.
The group explored many topics that she too found deeply intriguing and much more meaningful than the routine of a typical...
I do appreciate that throughout the video they've been using she/her pronouns.
...corporate job. As time passed, Lasota, now primarily known by the nickname Ziz, found a...
Oh, nickname? Hold on, so maybe it's not a chosen name, maybe it's just a nickname. In which case, if they're still identifying by the name used prior, then it's fine if it's just a nickname. But if they're calling it a nickname and it's actually her chosen name, I don't care. Yes, I know, this person is probably horrible. They started a cult, they're like murdering people. But coming at this specifically, like regardless of who the person is, there are certain things you do just out of respect. you don't call a chosen name a nickname, which they very well may not be, but if they are, ugh.
She was chronically unemployed, and although she applied to some more traditional jobs, at one point even landing a position in her field only to be fired within 4 days, she quickly grew disillusioned with both the job market and the very idea of having to work just to pay rent. Having moved to the Bay Area and established it...
Yeah, I can understand that sort of frustration with the way the world works, especially for the transgender community, which, you know, there's no massive protection against employers just not hiring us or firing us specifically because we're transgender because they don't like us. It's that sort of discrimination that's like hard to really stop. And it does happen, which means we are generally more likely to be unemployed than a cisgender person, which will cause this sort of fuck the society sort of attitude. I know people like that. I don't like it.
Met someone named Gwen Danielson through mutual connections in the rationalist community. Gwen, frustrated by the area's high cost of living, had decided to opt out altogether by choosing to live full-time on a small sailboat. As her situation became increasingly precarious, Ziz decided things were dire enough to accept Gwen's offer to move onto a small boat docked at the Berkeley Marina. Danielson, who suffered from both ADHD and autism, would spend...
Like me! I mean, suffered from. I would hesitate. Okay, that's a little bit of neurodiversity, inclusivity, or lack thereof, that I'm going to take issue with here rather than like a transgender topic. I would hesitate to say suffer from. Not all neuroatypical people, neurodivergent people, suffer because they have ADHD or autism. It is not neurodefective, it is neurodivergent. Different, not worse. I mean, I personally, like, ADHD can cause a bit of suffering, I suppose, with like the difficulty just paying attention to things and existing and getting things done in a timiest manner and just surviving as you are. But autism, I wouldn't say is generally suffering. The only way autism causes me to suffer is because most people are not autistic, and so they aren't generally predisposed to like understand that I just don't fucking get social cues and things like that. I suffer from my autism. The world makes me suffer from my autism. My autism does not make me suffer from my autism, if that makes sense. Anyway, so suffer from is a bit. I will take issue with that language.
Rationalist fleet naturally took shape in Ziz's mind. She envisioned a ship where fellow rationalists could live inexpensively, forming a community of like-minded people. Lesotho managed to find something promising, a 94-foot-long World War II tugboat called the Caleb. It wasn't exactly a luxury cruise liner, but it was better than nothing. Their plan was to travel to Alaska, purchase the Caleb, and sail it down to the Bay Area. The Caleb could manage, on a good day, a speed of 10 knots per hour. In contrast, many modern vessels...
That is slower than the top speed of HMS Victory. And that was big and powered by wind. This sounds like a very impulsive decision that I might make with my ADHD, where I just don't think things through. Christ.
Easily cruise at around 20 knots. While a trip of this distance would take a modern vessel about 2 weeks, it ultimately took the Caleb more than 4. Matters were made worse by the atmosphere aboard the ship, particularly due to Ziz. Although never openly hostile or threatening, there was something slightly off about her. One of the unnamed volunteers later remarked that while...
What, autism? Because I already suspected that by the fact that she was, like, self-isolating. Sounds familiar! Slightly off. That sounds like something someone would say about an autistic person now.
By the time they reached Washington State, Powell had reached his wit's end with the group. Ziz had allegedly taken it upon herself to confront him, convinced that Powell was actually transgender as well. After forcefully telling her...
Ooh, Ziz, this is where I'm starting to really not like you. The idea that you can be convinced that someone is transgender. That's for them to decide, Ziz. Babes, you don't fucking do that. That's a dick move. Just like a cis person can't be like, oh, you're not transgender. It's the same thing but in reverse, Ziz, darling.
After the long-delayed docking of the Caleb and the establishment of their base of operations in late 2017, even larger cracks began to appear between Lesoto's group and the broader rationalist movement. While rationalists emphasize self-optimization and considering the greater good, Lesotho and her followers took this philosophy to a whole different level. Central to this split was the belief in the moral supremacy of veganism, a principle not widely accepted within the...
Veganism is morally superior. Unless you shop at Woolworths, they seem to be farming in a very ethical way. This video is not sponsored by Woolworths.
She formally broke away. On a more philosophical level, the group's ideas diverged sharply from their rationalist origins. Writing extensively on her blog, Sinceriously, Ziz developed a philosophy of moral dualism within the self. She believed people were divided between two cores, with most having one good and one non-good core. Sometimes a person might have two non-good cores. Ziz had to count herself among the fortunate few who were blessed with two good cores. Fun.
Evidence! What happened to the whole... I'm not surprised that they broke away from the rationalist movement, because they're about, apparently, evidence. And here you are being like, ooh, you've got cores inside you, and I've got two good ones, but some people have two bad ones. Evidence!
Funny how that kind of luck always seems to work out in these stories, doesn't it? She came to believe that the vast majority of people ultimately gave in to their non-good core above all through compromise. Simply existing in the world required a form of compromise, going about daily life, working to pay rent, and most significantly, consuming animals were all seen as a sign of surrender to the non-good.
I mean, yeah, society sucks. But, like, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but this whole, like, hard line, you must not compromise on anything, you must detach from society and become your own fucking government. That's not helpful to anyone. That's not going to change anything. You know what changes things? Like protesting and, like, speaking out and voting. Political campaigns. Those help. Disconnecting from society fucking doesn't, guys. Controversial, I know.
This perspective seems radical. It is nothing compared to the remedies they prescribed. Compromise was viewed as the gravest failure, and so it was considered better to remove yourself from society entirely than to participate and betray your values. This is
stupid. It is stupid. It's stupid. The world exists in a society, and believe it or not, and like, humanity's been around for a while. They've tried a lot of things, and society is one of those things that has stuck around because it works. Yes, it sucks, but I believe there's some quote somewhere about some sort of something where it's like society sucks or democracy sucks, but everything else sucks a lot more. So, like, this whole disconnecting thing, that's covered in the whole under the banner of sucks more, guys.
This included one of the most common tactics among cults, cutting off friends and family who were perceived as morally corrupt or who questioned your involvement in the movement. Gwen, in particular, went on to develop a downright dangerous approach to self-improvement that involved sleep deprivation. Members of the group would attempt to mimic the unihemispheric sleep seen in animals such as dolphins.
You're not a dolphin, darling. What? God, I'm supposed to be criticizing Simon, although all of this has gone into cult territory rather than transgender territory, so...
Who would later identify as Maya Parsec. At some point in 2017, Parsec...
Are you dead naming again? Simon, darling, Simon. It's not the worst thing you can do, but it's dead naming, and as much as it might be confusing to you, and you're like, it's factual, that's what they used to be called, it's not nice. That's basically all it comes down to. We don't like it. And... yeah, no, there's no real hard line on this. It's just, we don't like it. So, we'd rather you didn't. It's not that you can't, it's just, can you not? Yeah, no, you guys, you cannot be like dolphins. If you are going to try and do something like this, and you're going to, like, try and alter your body, how about you talk to your doctor first? I know in the US it's kind of expensive. How about you, like, don't do it, or talk to a doctor about it and have them say, yeah, no, that's fucking bullshit, mate. Don't do that. You're gonna end up destroying your entire psychological health, and you're going to life is going to become unbearable for you. It's stupid. A doctor will tell you that. But they'll be more polite about it if they're a good doctor.
They considered this preferable to simply giving in to the world around them. While Lesotho would later claim that unihemispheric sleep did not doom Parsec, her other writings cast this into doubt. In a post titled Parsec's Doom, she wrote that, quote, Parsec's right hemisphere had been mostly dead.
I had no idea you had access to a fucking MRI machine. Or a CAT scan machine. Whichever one you use to, like, scan the fucking brain. I mean, the whole body, but, like, the brain specific. My point is... conjecture, I think, is a good word. What is conjecture? An opinion or conclusion formed on the basis of incomplete information. Calling that conjecture is generous. I'm gonna say again here, this video on its own is not like anti-trans, but for one of the only videos about on the topic of on the transgender topic to be this, it would do harm. It's furthering the already preconceived notions of those who are genociding us. It's validating that by the very existence of this video. This video on its own isn't like... I wouldn't nail someone to a cross over it, and Simon's not like the worst person in the universe. It's just... I'm sure they just weren't aware of how this would impact things. And I may be completely wrong, to be honest, but I feel like, yeah, I'm not. I feel like speaking conjecture.
That all of this took place at the height of the COVID pandemic in 2020. California, along with many other states, had enacted a total moratorium on evictions, aiming to prevent people whose jobs were impacted by the virus from losing their homes. While the policy was well-intentioned, it effectively made rent optional for many people. The citizens quickly realised this, and it wasn't long before they stopped paying rent, knowing that Lind had little recourse.
I don't hate that. Can I point out to any skeptics out there? Hold on, actually, that little tagline on the thumbnail was clickbaity because it said the vegan transgender murderer people. None of this currently has anything to do with them being trans. Nothing.
According to Lind's testimony, he looked down to see the sword piercing through him. Brainian then joined the attack, stabbing him with a knife. It was a complete ambush. Lind was being stabbed by multiple assailants from several directions. Blades slashed through his back, across his stomach, and even over his eye. What his attackers...
I would like to point out that none of them are murdering this man, although by his testimony I think he survived, because they're transgender. That is a correlation rather than causation, if you were wondering. Don't murder people, guys.
Didn't know was that Lind was armed that day.
Oh, he's gonna shoot
save his life. He pulled.
Oh, as much as I hate how lax gun laws are in the US, I always love the stories of like people who are being attacked who manage to do worse harm to their attackers.
Out his pistol, raised it, and fatally shot Brainian. He also They used the language and structures of their once philosophical movement to rationalize any action they took. In their eyes, they were the good guys. Just ask them, and they'd assure you of it. And if you didn't agree, that simply made you an enemy. On New Year's Eve, 2022, Rita and Richard Zyko spent the evening at home. That plan was shattered when they were brutally murdered in their own home that night.
Where'd they get guns
Soon
from?
after, their own
Hold on.
Michelle was
America. These people are obviously not okay in the head and really shouldn't have been allowed to get guns. I mean, they might have gotten them illegally, but America, if they got them legally, what the fuck?
In questioning by the police in her hometown in Vermont. Coincidentally, Michelle was set to inherit her parents' estate as their sole child. Moreover, she owned a firearm that fired the same caliber bullets that were found at the crime scene and had purchased ammunition made by the same manufacturer.
Is she a cult member?
Naturally, they applied and were granted a search warrant, and at this point, Zyko was in Pennsylvania for her parents' funeral. There, Pennsylvania state troopers obtained a separate warrant and stormed the Candlewood Suites Hotel in search of her. After breaking down the door, the state troopers didn't find a gun. What they did find was even more bizarre.
A bunch
Jack,
of cult members?
Ziz, Lesotho, was alive and breathing, despite her attempts to play dead.
Hey! Stop fucking dead naming, Simon!
On January the 20th, Border Patrol agent David Millant pulled over a blue Toyota Prius during a routine traffic stop. Inside the car were Teresa Youngblood and Felix Bauchelt, who also went by the name of Ophelia, both members of the Zizians.
Simon! Stop fucking detonating!
Once earning over $500,000 a year on Wall Street at the age of 26, he left that lucrative life behind to join the group.
He?
The traffic stop
Simon!
was not in time.
Simon, I'm reasonably certain it's she. And if you're not sure, considering they go by Ophelia, they? Simon? If you're not sure, they, and you should be not sure, because fucking Ophelia!
Lynn stepped outside. Snyder pounced. Lynn never saw the attack coming and
Oh, come on.
Snyder slit his throat, leaving him to bleed
Oh,
out on
come on! He survives 50 stab wounds? Fuck you, murderer.
Youngblood and Snyder, despite their bright and promising academic backgrounds, now sat in jail. Despite their violence, the group made no progress on any of their core
Oh my
concerns.
god, it's a
Their most
cult,
significant
Simon.
threat,
Get on with
apart
it.
from the loss suffered by victims' families was the multi-million-dollar environmental disaster that was left behind, the semi-submerged Caleb still looming in Half Moon Bay as a testament to the group's
It's a
reckless.
cult, Simon. They're not going to accomplish something.
On the more-
So, in conclusion, Simon, I find you guilty of negatively impacting the transgender community. Because you didn't have to make a video about this. There's nothing compelling you, and this does little to benefit the general world in general. What it does do is add another piece of evidence for the dickheads to say, oh, the transgender people are inherently demonic and deserve to be eradicated from public society. Again, this video on its own is not transphobic, and I'm not going to nail you to a cross over it, Simon. But you cover this, and not once, as far as I'm aware, cover the fact that the rights that we have are slowly being taken away, causing more deaths in our community. It is a genocide, a very slow genocide, much slower than some other genocides that are happening. It's a fucking genocide, Simon, and making this video and none to reference the shit that we're going through, I think is a bit of a dick move. Maybe I'm a snowflake. You could call me that if you like. But, yes, I find you guilty, Simon. You are hereby sentenced to my very slight to moderate disapproval of you as a person. Let me know in the comments if you think differently. If you think this court has not been justified in its sentencing. Leave a like. No, hold on, what do I say? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Probably not another reaction video, probably a gaming video, which is the usual. Goodbye.